So
Yeah, I wish we
Yeah.
had recorded what you just said, because I love
I
the way
know,
you
I'm sorry.
articulated that.
don't worry about it. It will come up again.
It's in there. It's in him. It's gonna come out again.
Very good. Yeah, I totally agree. Like, Rob has a great way of articulating this and creating something very abstract, you know, materializing it into a real DAO that's actually functional, you know? And so it's been fun, like, working with him. I don't know how much you know about me or not.
I
Before
know enough. I know enough that we are. This is very interesting. What do I need to know about you? Well, I know because you're here. You're one of us.
one
And
of
when
us.
there's when how many of us are here? Well, I say there's only one of us, humanity. There's three people, but only one of us, humanity.
That's nice. I like that.
So we're completely aligned in our deepest purpose.
Yeah, beautiful.
And how cool is that? By the way, that in itself is the core, is the highest value of our proposition. Think about that. Being part of us.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. And like you were saying earlier, like, our current economic system does not care about that, you know? And I love that what Rob is creating could actually, you know, treat every human with the dignity and respect that we all deserve, just for being human, you know, just for being part of the family, you know? So yeah, I've never actually been a part of any project that really cared. Unless it's just been, you know, volunteer work or activism. But when it comes into a work situation, you know, I've worked for some large companies like Disney, and every time the workers and employees wanted to, you know, tell the company we deserve a little more respect than this, people would get fired. Threats would be made. They would tell people not to meet and talk in a group. So someone actually got fired for encouraging discussion, you know? But this is wonderful. Like, we're encouraged to meet every week and share ideas and collaborate and build this from the ground up together. And, you know, Rob's actually set us up with a foundation to work off of. So that's very exciting. Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Zoe. Thank you both. I know I appreciate your kind thoughts.
By the way,
on that.
Rob,
and I think
sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. That I think that I have, you know, that's been part of my job, is to set up, you know, this platform, you know, the foundation. And that's really, you know, and that's what's so, what we're doing here, and what's so exciting to me is that like I see, you know, like that job like happening less and less, you know, and then more of it like not, that's the vision, you know, is that okay, fine, it's, you know, like create this platform or the foundation, and then we all start building upon it, you know, together. So it's less and less like what Rob's doing, and it's more and more like what the DAO is doing, what we're all doing. And so yeah, that transition is very exciting.
If you build it, they will come.
That's that's the whole thing. That's it. If you build it, they will come. That's the idea. And yeah, and I think that, you know, part of it is I you know, part of like what I feel into, you know, in the world with clients, with myself, I feel like this is something I feel into, you know, like with Zoe, is, you know, is the present time need, and the present time, you know, almost like you know, or urgency that comes along with, you know, the vision and the goal, right? Because it's like urgency isn't what I'm, like in my mind, what I'm or we're striving for, but there's something real there as well,
Creative
and
urgency.
yeah, I mean, I feel it in my, and the urgency is basically, it's like, I don't know if urgency is the right word, the
Creative
need.
urgency.
No, I mean, no, I'm talking like base level survival needs, like how am I going to pay rent next month? That's what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. How am I going to pay rent next month? How am I going to, eat? I mean, those are like the base level needs that are here that to
Right.
me, are very real. And that's the idea of, I think for me, of this model is like, okay, there's a lot of people out there who have those base needs, and the urgency is around getting those met, every day. So so how can we all share value in a way, where we can do that in the here and now, while also co-creating the model that actually makes that happen, so it's a little bit of a koan, but I think that it's a working koan.
What's a koan?
a koan is a Zen term, yes, specifically like in the Rinzai Zen tradition, and it's a question without an answer. It's like, what's the sound of one hand clapping, or it's
Is this from Jerry Maguire? You know that Cubic Gooding Jr. asked the guy that plays Jerry Maguire, "What's my koan?" It's like a quest, like.
Oh yeah, Kwan. Yeah, I think they're two separate
Different?
things.
Okay.
Yeah. I think Kwan, the way he was talking about that, I think it was like KWON or something, but
Okay.
yeah, that's like, yeah, but this koan, KOAN, it's like a question that that you like live, it's something where it doesn't have like a specific answer, so it's, in this case, I'm like the koan is, how do we live, in the here and now, in this system that is existing, but also be, creating another one. So yeah, so it's
So with the characteristic be, it's like kind of an idea that it doesn't have a single location, but it has a directionality. It's like this is what guides me. This is what I bring in. This is why this is what I have born to be a conduit for realizing. Is that more or less?
yeah, like everybody, yeah, and I may not be the best person to describe it, but it's something that, it's a question that points to something. It points
Okay.
to something that's beyond like what like a speech, like just a word can answer, or a
Sure.
sentence or paragraph can answer. It points beyond that. So it's like a question that a person lives, and
Mhm.
everybody's going to have like a different koan,
Yeah.
that they're living or that they're needing, yeah, I mean,
I love that. And you said
yeah.
this one is, how do we live in the here and now current economic system while creating the new one that, man, I wish I'd remembered everything you said, Jeff, that, values every human for the beautiful human that they are.
Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Cool.
and I think that I think this is crucial. This is the core of our proposition in terms of identifying the biggest need that we all have for bringing into reality this what brings us together. And the biggest need is we have a need for generating a livelihood so we can survive, so we can fill all our life survival needs. but we don't want to do it anymore in the same way. We need now to do it in a way that we don't have to choose between life survival and life fulfillment. We want alignment. We want to converge. That what gives us our life fulfillment, first and foremost, provide us with our life survival needs. So we shift completely the intentionality of our relationship and the context of our work, not to go and generate, not to have to go to work so I can fulfill my life survival needs. So then in the weekends, I can have life fulfillment time. But to align my life fulfillment in a context that I am contributing what I have to generate products and services that provide life fulfillment for others. And in that, I earn my purposeful livelihood. And it's completely alignment. So we'll never have to work again because we're just practicing that what we are being best at. And that, in essence, our work becomes our life fulfillment roles.
Right.
Yeah. And
Exactly.
so there's a lot of material that I have shared with Rob, where I have all presentations about the model and all this that you know, that Rob, yeah, we can organize, and we however we coordinate to start putting it in the same place that we're going to be, the container of how we're going to come together and all that, right? Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah. Zoe.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. Yeah, I know. I love it. All of that. And for me, I think that's the idea of, holistic systems is a method, a platform to attempt to bring that into, present time actualization, and using certain groups of people, if it's a platform, then using certain groups of people that have shared needs to then to then put it into practice, by saying, okay, where is everybody's place of alignment? So where and how do we get everybody into that place where they're not actually working, where they're fulfilling a role, but they're not, like you said, Jeff, not working. And then, in all areas, in this symbiotic way. So, and that's, yeah, I think it's doable. And
I like to share something else that is a distinction from many other places where I have gone who are doing something similar, and why this one is uniquely different is that it's an issue of language. It's the issue of, how old are you, Rob? Just to make sure.
Sure, I'm 47.
Okay, well, you're younger than I am, and Rob, and Zoe, how old are you?
30.
Okay. What I wanted to say is that there's a language that Rob uses that is younger than the many other people who are organizing, who are the baby boomers, who are retired, who are they do not quite have the language that because it's new language. Because one of my discoveries is that we construct our socioeconomic reality using language as a fabric. Okay, and the existential limitations, like the inherent limitations of our existential worldview, is the context by which we use language. But then how that becomes the biggest limitation is that we do not have language that reflects the integration of the spiritual and the material. We don't have the language because we understand the spiritual and we understand the material in two separate existential contexts. Therefore, we do not have a cognitive continuum to integrate those two. We do not have a common language to refer to the spiritual dimensions. But that's where what we're talking about comes from. All this that is life fulfilling are our potentials, and those are spiritual emergent. We do not have language to reflect that into, and so we end up being limited to even have a coherent conversation about that, right? So the way you have articulated specifically the issue, because the issue then becomes very specifically, we know that we want to create new kinds of livelihoods, so we need to organize the way we work in a different way, right? And that's what's reflected in here. So we come here to become the by coming to relate in this journey together, we become the relational context by to which others can come into in relationship with us. So it's in becoming together that we become the context for this to be co-realized by many others together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and then also very important, Rob, as you mentioned, as you have been the founder of this idea, you very clearly says, but this is not my company anymore. This is me putting together the context for all of us to come together and not necessarily say, well, okay, he's the boss, and then we're gonna come here and then because we fall into the same trap. Okay, so how are you gonna pay me for what I bring into here? And so, well, no, you're not bringing into here something for him. You are bringing into here something for us, as all of us are bringing something to here for you. So it's like we are all contributing to, and then we truly then achieve the network effect, the human network effect.
Yeah. It's that network effect. That network effect that's what's going to do it, you know. It's
Correct.
what's going to get if it catches, you know. And so, well, thank you for that reflection. Yeah, I appreciate that, Jeff, so much.
And okay, let me finish the point. I'm sorry for the. And it's generational. It's a generational thing that I think that is important. Meaning that I do think that this is the language necessary to attract the millennials and Gen Zers that are coming very, very hungry for this, but very, very hungry for this.
Oh, it's true.
Yeah.
Which in essence, it's also a very strategically that what we ought to focus on, because think about it this way. Buckmaster Fuhrer said, you never change the system from outside, you come with a new one from within and you make the old one obsolete. Well, the way our approach I would suggest is that to see the Gen Z, the millennials and Gen Zers are just entering the world, the professional world, right? Okay, so how about the context that we're presenting as a new alternative to enter what will end up being a new world? The new world.
Yeah.
The evolved new world. And that's what we can harness. So the next 10 years is going to completely transform human civilization, right? Okay, so
yeah, one way
we are a conveyor belt for that transformation.
Yeah,
that's cool. I'm gonna write that down. I like that.
Yeah, I'm taking notes as well.
Cool. Yeah, and again, this is just simply, this is for me a dream, because just having this conversation, I think it's one of the most powerful things that we can do to attract others. Because this conversation is reflecting. Think of it. Here is representatives from humanity coming together and embodying the open-minded awareness to allow what wants to emerge through us and to manifest and to be expressed by each of us as we are experiencing the emergence of this evolutionary impulse. Reflect on it and be able to see as I speak that you are completely enjoying this and resonating with this because it's beautiful. And I'm saying it because I'm reflecting what I believe you have within you as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
Wow, everything
Zoe?
you say makes me think.
Which is a good thing.
Everything you say makes me just like, hold on a moment, let me process that.
Contemplate that.
It's great. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you. All right. Well, Zoe, yeah, you can process a little bit and then, share any thoughts, as we go. Yeah, I appreciate that, Jeff. And there were a couple of really kind reflections in there, so just to say, thank you for that. And as far as the language.
On the other
and-
side, Rob,
Mm.
feel free to always shut me up.
Okay.
Shut up, Jeff. It's not.
Well, that's
if I
yeah.
talk too much.
Well, I love, I think sometimes, folks, like us who maybe are, really like feel this vision strongly, we could talk about this for hours, I mean, that's something I feel like I feel myself practicing, if I'm talking to somebody, really being like, okay, like, because I could just go off on it, because it's like it's so exciting. So, and actually, I think that brings in a good question, like to our current, group of three people here, which is, the
Here.
use of, of like the rest of this meeting time, because I have I have like the meeting notes document that I can share with everybody, but I have some agenda items and to-do items and things that like more specific things that we could talk about and workshop, and being in kind of the flow of really trying to make this all happen. So but I want to check in and see, okay, was that something that do we want to jump into that kind of thing, which is more getting into more concrete areas of what we're doing here, or are there other better ways to or are there other additional ways that we'd like to utilize our meeting time?
Zoe, anything?
Sure, I have a question. Did I miss a lot like last week? So it sounds like you gave a presentation, you said?
Yeah, I have shared some pretzels with Rob.
He shared his material. Prezzies, like
Prezi.
yeah. So like we can, I can share those links with you,
And we recorded some of it.
Okay,
yeah.
maybe you
But really,
sent me that.
we talked.
I don't
Yeah, we talked a lot.
Yeah.
Like this, we really we just sort of got to know each other and really talked more about these big ideas, and and shared back and forth, and so it was
Yeah. Now let me also say something about
Hi, Basil.
what you just did was one of the reasons that why I have been very clear and very very clear about choosing to start working with you, is because you do have this sense of urgency and this disposition. You're a doer.
Hmm.
You're a doer, and that's what's needed. Idealist and big visions, and you have a big vision as well, but you're focusing on let's bring it on. Let's like next. What's just realizing it, actualizing it. Okay, and that's a huge role that you're playing as far as for me in a complementary huge way.
Mm.
So that's very important. So I totally recognize that as and yeah, urgently necessary
Yeah.
characteristic or attribute. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that. And it's not something it's just the role that I happen to be playing now, it's not something I'm like, trying to do. It's just like, that's where my energy is, I'm just like, I'm like, let's do this shit, people, that's the energy that's coming through. So I'm just, riding that wave, and for as long as the wave keeps going. So thank you. Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Basil, would you like to check in? Not required, but if you'd like to say hi and just check in.
Let me get a charger for the phone and then I'll check in.
Okay, yeah, no problem. We'll keep going. So, okay, well, so then, should we get, talk about more of that, doing kind of material? Does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
All right.
And so, by the way, we could meet any other time. I could share everything. I mean, as we share. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Great. Yeah. Of course, we could meet other. Yeah, this is just one sort of standing meeting, and so and it's been something that I've been thinking about. I just put in the chat like our meeting document. Yeah, it's been something I've been thinking about and actually talking about with Delise, who might pop in here today, but maybe not. But Delise is another team member who's joining in and is going to be helping with some outreach and maybe some project management and some other areas. So it's we met for a while yesterday, which is exciting. And so the idea is how to utilize this meeting, and I think my thought is to it's like at its base level, this would be just kind of this standing meeting for anybody to come and join in, and like you did, Jeff, for new people to come in and and then get introduced and us sort of meet each other and talk about why we're here at that base level, and then if it turns out a lot to be if it turns out to be a constellation of people in the meeting that we're all already in there and know each other and doing stuff, then it it could turn more into like a doing or businessy kind of meeting. And then the third question, which kind of goes into the first, which I'd love to check in with you all and have thoughts on, is so like right now, to me, number one priority, and Jeff, this is kind of like what we were talking about, the chicken and the egg thing. Number one priority is to bring in, new potential team members, new contributors, on that like kind of team member role, who can fulfill these professional services roles, whether, they're ready to jump in, more like we are, whether they're, wanting to just be on the roster. So Delise and I, kind of came up with a plan for that outreach, and that she's going to help facilitate. And one of the ideas, which I think has always been something we've been talking about, is to put out like job listings, so on like Indeed.com and some other ones, put out job listings, but the listing is going to be, just as unconventional of a job listing as the organization that it's for, so it's really, it's got to spell out everything that we're doing, and with the understanding that, hey, this is not like an employee job, and and if like if this is like, make sure that that this is for you, and if not, then there's no need to come in, or I don't know, nicer language than that. But here's the question. So I was thinking, because this is what I've done in the past, right? You look at schedule, you look at people's resumes, and then you decide who you want to talk to, and then you have a bunch of interviews and, you know, go from there. And in this case, it would be more like meetings and just getting to know people and explaining. But that's still like, potentially I could be, you know, meeting with whatever, 5, 8, 10 people a week. And, you know, that is a lot of time. And so Delise, again, this is what comes up all the time. And just to say, like, what I love about collaboration, you know, is just that people have ideas that I just don't have, you know, or that are just, they're so obvious, but they're not in like my brain, you know, flow. So she's like, well, why don't you just have one, like, you know, like weekly meeting time, you know, for everybody to come, because, you know, just so to say, like, hey, if you're interested, come and join in. We'll talk about it. We'll all get to meet each
Great
other.
idea. Oh my God.
I know. And then whoever's interested after that, then sure, we can have one-on-ones, you know.
Yeah.
But that opens it up in like in such a great way. It also opens it up in a way where it doesn't just have to be me, like, oh, okay, well, I'm Rob, and now I'm going to be the person at this interview meeting, you know. But it's like, well, Jeff can come too. Zoe can come
Yeah,
too.
meet
Whoever.
the team, and they'll be so inspired seeing all the people who are already on board. Like, that's way, such a
Yeah,
good
well,
idea.
it's sort
I
of like
know,
a funnel.
Delise, right?
Yeah, it's sort of like a funnel, right?
Yeah,
But a funnel
yeah.
in it for not necessarily selling to everybody. But this is where the way of the metaphor is that you and I are the customers, the product is us.
Right.
In converging ourselves into the us that is going to begin to work in a whole different way, right? And actually, let's also understand, we're looking for those who are looking for us.
Yeah.
Right? And we have, you know, I got here, all I had to do is read the website and I got here. That's what we want. We want those who are there. We just need to be exposed. That message needs to be exposed, that possibility, because we're articulating a possibility, right? We're articulating that possibility that it's going to resonate with all those people who said, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. There's got to be a way. Whoa, I found a better way, you know? And then I say, well, okay, then apply, tell us, you know, and this is a volitional thing. This is a volitional thing that people say. So every week we have this articulation of that, and then they say, well, okay, we'll let you come in. You will be invited, or most likely, you know, people are just going to qualify because if they want to be here, it's because they recognize, right? They want to contribute. So just like us, right? Then it's again, it's into recognizing that when you make the mind shift from the I versus you into the us, there is no other, there's no competition. It's all about collaboration. And then there's a lot that we can begin to share and all these things, right? I have tremendous amount of material to deliver a lot of self-awareness expansion for making this work, right? And it's just a matter of then organizing how we onboard all these people who are looking for us, us as the interrelational context, to become part of the conveyor belt that is becoming the new civilization as we grow. And the meaning grow means more of us coming together to work to be different, to be becoming something that relates and works in a new way and produces a new reality, so we can all live purposeful livelihoods.
Yeah. And
the demonstration and the validation for our value proposition is these conversations. They will get to experience what we are experiencing, and that in itself is the demonstration that we are creating the reality of which we have chosen to become a part of. It's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
transformation of being. It's a choice. You want to be in, choose it.
There you go. Yeah, and that speaks to what I, hope, what one of the intentions is really the inclusivity,
Yes,
of it, right? That
right.
that somebody can, that it isn't like, okay, we're just going to weed down to this one person, who from conventional standards has these, particular skill sets, and and that's the person who can enter,
Right.
so it's, and so it's really bringing and opening up that inclusivity, while also, having it, the like, who's going to be here, is decided upon by the group, and by the functionality, right? So so somebody comes in, and if they can, if they're not able to fulfill the role, well enough for, to kind of meet the accountabilities of that role, then that can be decided upon just by the action, and it's also, I'm getting off on a little tangent, but I think it's also not a binary where it's like a person is in or out, it's like, okay, now how can we work with that person who wants to be here? And of course, that's why I think we need a larger
Okay,
group.
so and that
But-
calls for and that calls for specific ways to contextualize in a new way how we're going to do the work that we're going to do. All right, and that's where my value correlation model comes in to have ways to organize it, and so imagine this is a matter of, okay, so what I've said that in my model, there is the ultimate core design principle. To create an economy, there's completely collaborative. There's no competition. The core principle for that is to create a system that designates an inclusive role for everyone to fulfill their unique potential.
Yeah.
Inclusive role, unique potential. So we designed what we're doing based on applying that core design, and then we organize it. So what kind of work is that we're doing? Well, we are just we're just becoming a context for humanity to self-organize in a way that leads to the evolution of human civilization. That's it. That's a simple job that we're doing, and then becomes a matter of pretty much. It's like we're still going out there and doing work, but now we're doing it in a way that we're choosing to because we're choosing it because we have an opportunity in this role for me to fulfill my virtues and talents. So that's what leads to fulfillment, right? And then there's things that I can do excellent because I'm very good at, but no, we are not going to be able to do everything. So well, you're going to have a teammate. You're going to have to do a particular project, and then we can organize that. Okay, so maybe we start doing work with DAOs, and we can start helping DAOs expand all over. And then it's like, it's and maybe we can start funding the same kind of work. But like what you said, Rob, is that we're gonna help entrepreneurs begin to realize their projects and ideas, right? So we are entrepreneurs ourselves. So we can come up with all kinds of ideas and help each other bring them from the ground up and start co-creating and co-realizing, and then start thinking, where I connected with you, which is the seeds ecosystem, right? And the seeds ecosystem wanting to create the regenerative civilization. Well, there's an immense transition from the extractive civilization that we have right now to the regenerative civilization, right? Okay, so who's going to do the work of this transition? Right. Well, we are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And this is what I mean by contextualizing, right? And I think that's what my framework helps the most in contextualizing in a purposeful way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right. That's helpful
Right.
for me to right.
And now also having that as an understanding of where we're heading, I think that what is there's the importance and there's the urgency, right? And the urgency is that what are we doing now that in 2 weeks is going to be leading to us starting to generate some revenues. So we truly validate the model because it's
Right.
great to have an embodiment. It's too great to have a vision. It's great to have the experience. But at the end, we need to validate the proposition. It's leading to somebody
That's
earning,
right.
having been able to create a purposeful livelihood or purposefully create a livelihood from inside out, right?
Yeah.
And that's the urgency that you bring about, and that's why I recognize that for myself, I need somebody like you.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, in fact, and that's beautiful. I just want, right. That's the goal, is for everybody to be in, their place, their being in alignment with themselves, their mission, their purpose, the energy that's moving through, and then how do we all then co-create what we're envisioning together? It's that hierarchy of purpose, not hierarchy of persons.
Okay. And I call this purposeful synergism.
Purposeful synergism. I'm gonna, yeah, exactly. Purposeful. And so with that, then to bring back to then the here and now, the question, that I have is, does it make sense to have, at least for now, does it make sense to just have this meeting be the meeting that new folks can come to, that we're putting out these job listings and we don't know how many people, but it seems like, I don't know, we could have it just be this meeting now, and then if for some reason we need to then branch off into a second one, or for more businessy stuff, or just a second one just for people to come to meet folks, that we could. So does it seem reasonable to do? Hi, Basil. Does it seem reasonable to just have it be this one for now?
For now, maybe, until things get larger, maybe.
We also have we also have our VR platforms, or our and teams that are like leading like these connected experiences on a weekly basis for creatives to come together to talk about all this stuff. And it's quite engaging. You get in circles around the fire. So that's another platform for onboarding people, because then we can have like all the visuals of all of our different organizations and efforts and films and images and pictures and stories. That way it's more exploratory, and then the people can kind of explore while people are talking. You can only really have one person talking at a time, but that way it's quite good for that. I think Zoom's good too, and there's other stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think then,
Cool.
let me see what you think about this. Having this kind of a funnel that we could have different meetings for people at the different stages of the onboarding process. Right? So like the introductory, just first time in here, have a meeting for people who are there that have those kinds of questions, and have them then look at what time do they come in and we start sharing with them these kinds of videos, right? So then they can go in there and they can take their time to really see how we are coming together, what is emerging from us right now. And then, okay, yeah, I want in. So for the people who want in, now there's more specific, okay, what they're going to have specific questions, right? And then this is the meeting where everybody new gets to begin to ask the questions. And from there, then what are the projects that we already have that, like Basil says, there's all these creatives that options to start working on this project. That is, but that's going to happen after people have chosen to really become part of this. And so I think what I'm saying is that I think there is a natural onboarding flow that informs us of what kind of meetings do we have.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, and Basil, as you're saying, so maybe that's something we think about, as we, for now, okay, we have this, this one meeting, and then we can start to think about where the other, like essentially that funnel that you're talking about, where the other places, and I mean, Basil, your idea, of having like, it sounds like there's already these meetings going on, where people can get together, and then they can all, in VR, and they can also see what's happening. So it's like, if those are already going on, that's something that we can kind of integrate into the larger onboarding process.
Right, but yeah, that's where HS is. The function is to handle that HR, detailed onboarding. To gather our global ecosystem of people, all across the board, and then over time, these meetings and all the ecosystem onboarding opportunities. We have so many amazing teams and so many amazing projects. We can, the way we were starting to run the Seeds Academy and the Seeds Embassy was we'd started doing tests, or we'd have events, and then we'd have breakout rooms so that ambassadors, like people, could like jump out of the main content room and go like on board or whatever, so there's different ways. There's like this direct way here, and then there's like, other events that then we need to have HS on borders to be able to, anybody that's interested in learning more about the ecosystem, that can step out into a side room in a VR platform. You can just like walk away from the crowd a little bit, and then talk about it. There's seeds onboarding that is valuable here. And I just want to make sure that we can get people quickly into action, and like, we need to create that space for people to talk, and that's so important. But there's a lot of people. People, so we need to fractal a bit. And having that human connection. So when people come into HS and they like on board and they go to the chat bot on the HS website or whatever, we'll have like the automations to kind of like filter people, but at a certain point, like, they can go into the VR platform that's live, or they can set up a meeting with somebody, with a human. And that way we have the human element for the onboarding of people into this future was the most critical thing, where a lot of companies are focusing on like AI driven everything. I'm like, we leverage the AI to quickly like filter and sort, but then we get to a human caretaker, human onboarder. That's matched to the person. So in the initial phases, when they're coming in, they're like, hey, how can I help you? They click on the button, and it's a normal chat kind of thing. And then based upon the filters that we sort of set, we can match to our best person in the HS whatever ecosystem that's in our database as a onboarder, or has a badge, maybe as a enroller or something. And then we can match the right person to the need, as far as human matching. And then these multi-human groups are good, but this is expensive. Our time is expensive, so we have to be mindful.
That's a great big picture like onboarding process, and that also, so right there, like that's that's somebody's, that's a role, for somebody to either, to set up, or somebody to manage that, that process, the onboarding. And Delise, and I we're on the starting edge of that now, as far as like the outreach, but I think that's somebody's, that's somebody's job. So then, the question is, okay, who's doing that? And that is an open question. That is not something where,
No,
to
not solving it
answer
now.
that right now, because I think, that can, grow, but that's like, that's like a, that's like a community, that's like the, community building role and facilitating all that. So
just to give you the scope of what's necessary here is, now that we have an ecosystem of a bunch of independents and a bunch of people and a bunch of operations and organizations, when people come into the ecosystem, they're going to need help to find their way. It's a journey. it's a journey. We want to help them on that game journey. So yeah, like, with HS just sitting up that Airtable database to be able to like bring the people in, that's critical, and that's for the ecosystem. And then we have everybody sorted by their specialties, and then we go, there's, we'll get there. It's an ongoing grooming, cultivation process for sure.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a question on that, Basil, because this is something I've been thinking about, right? So I've been calling it, the roster, whatever, the ecosystem database, but, right. So I have that already, going internally, right? So, like the sort of CRM, but my question is, what is, right? So there's this, but my question on this is like, all right, so here's all the contacts, and then we have, the right? This is CRM, but it seems like we want to have just a database that's for, that's accessible to everybody. And I guess my question for you, Basil, and everyone is like, what is to the general public, what is just internal to HSC, because it's like we have this roster, and maybe we don't want the whole world to just then go and like start calling people,
we have to start security first and then work our way out. So we start with security first, especially when we have people's phone numbers and emails, especially when they're important people.
Right.
So we have to have a secure, rigorous security.
Yeah.
So with
having by accident,
having a secure system and security first. So the difference between HSC is open source everything, Creative Commons everything. That's beautiful picture. That's an awesome world. But like people's, there's data that we have to preserve.
Yeah.
On behalf of the other people. So security first. It's fine, in my opinion, that people just onboard through the HSC and then go through that one form, and then they get into the HSC database, and then from there, they can list their alliances. Maybe they're already members of HIFA, or maybe they're not. But at least you start to see a full picture of your internal secure database of the people, and then we can start to create functions. But I think that to access these Airtables and stuff like that, we need to have HSC badges. So you can't say Airtable badge. If you have that badge, you're in the Airtable. And then things like that, treasurer badge, different, Discord moderator badge or whatever in the HS, DAO framework. And then we try to like stick to that to the best of our ability. I think that's the safest, because I know that, on the D Studio side, while we're gathering, all of these people, all these producers and talent and specialists and analysts and hosts and anchors and, more producers. Because of that, and all the team members, all the crew members, the entire like studio database, we need, I feel like I'm confident, like if we can create the holistic systems database, and then we have security within that, and then we can choose a ecosystem server or system that we can like opt in people to be placed in there. And for me, that's like, we have the ecosystem that's easily accessible, and that's like, the person, their skills, what they've done, they're essentially
Yeah.
their LinkedIn, but not necessarily
Yeah.
direct
But
contact
one question,
except through the
one,
system.
one question, Basil, you referring to as an ecosystem. I just want to be clear, what ecosystem is that? Is that
Humanity.
seeds ecosystem, HIFA ecosystem? What? There's something
It's a
of an
human
idea.
ecosystem. It's a human ecosystem. HIFA has like an ecosystem, it's baby, but there's the whole ecosystem. We need to like have all of that in one single source of truth, so that when we're coordinating global operations, it's really easy, because we have like all of these different HR ecosystems connected through a single source of truth. That's ultimately what we're going to need to be able to coordinate things globally.
Right, but you don't mean
rather
that
than a bunch of fractal. It's not just isolated to HIFA. Let's put it that way.
Okay, but it's not something that we already have. In other words, we don't have this data yet in some kind of database.
I mean, I think the
You just have
database
a bunch of
right now is
disparate pieces. Yeah.
Yeah, D Studio has their spreadsheet, and like I, showed you there, like Holistic Systems has our Airtable, and that's what we have now.
Okay, so people we have access to in general, not necessarily. I mean, what I mean to say is not something that is coming from the hi-fi ecosystem or the seeds ecosystem that is already built as a tool or as a reference material. No. No.
We can scrape
Not that I
that
know.
because those lists are open. That's, we have those all over the place. That group of people is easy. But the main thing is we kind of need to put everybody back through into the Airtable with their skills, with what they want to do, with their availability, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And then that way we can at least start to have that talent pool to allocate as projects come in.
Right. That have like opted in, as it were.
Yeah, do they want to have opportunity in the event that like business, DAO development contracts come into HSC, production contracts come into HSC, whatever comes into HSC, do they want to have like easy access through our, HIFA DAO tools to do quests and roles for different things over time, for standardized rates and, deferment protocol. So it's easy with our HIFA people, they're used to it. Outside people, they need to understand like the pay it forward approach.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the tool do you see the best tool to organize that?
Well, we built it, or one of our developers in the ecosystem, the first one I recruited, Pavel, he built the system we want, but right now, phase one this year, just like hammering on Airtable, which is totally fine. Like all of like the coordination events that I was running in 2020, 21 for like coordinating hundreds of people and guests and talents and indigenous tribes all over the place for events, live multi-hour broadcast events. Airtable was great because we were able to bring the contacts in with their bios, with their images, and then auto-publish to the website. We didn't even have to, it's coming right from Airtable. So Airtable is really good for all that integrated stuff. And then as far as form entry for people, it's great. There might be a little bit of an issue with file size uploads. I'm not sure. That's a big question I'm going to have, because we need to start to gather VR assets like FPX files and object files from indigenous artists coming in for our UNESCO project, Rob. But yeah, so, but I think we can hammer on Airtable for like getting all of our humans into the HS Airtable.
Yeah.
And then sorting them from there.
Is this something you already have for a studio?
I can't manage. The problem is while I've created these things over time to run different things, I cannot continue to just like alone. So I need to focus on what I'm really best at. I can't do everything all the time. Right. And when I came back from the forest from retirement, I didn't come back to do anything. I came back to be fully decentralized and just
Okay.
help
Yeah.
the
Well,
overall
that's the-
movement do stuff.
Yeah,
And it
yeah.
requires giving up control. It requires like seeing Rob and saying, Rob wants to do this. Awesome. Go for it. I'll help you as much
What
as I
I want to
can.
do, exactly. What I want to do is sit there, like a vampire and create this Airtable thing, for hours. But I'm also doing, all these other things, right? So it is getting more. And of course, that's exactly what we're talking about here. We're talking about outreach now, bringing in more people to be doing all these other jobs. So that way, which is exactly what Jeff is talking about, which that way is everybody's doing, what they want to be doing in alignment. And then we have that, right? Then we have the more of that we have, then the more we have to offer to people, businesses, entrepreneurs, etc., who need help, need this kind of help, right? Somebody's running a business, they need an Airtable database. Okay, well then we're right there to do it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
go ahead, Rob, and start to imagine the cost per startup of a fresh Airtable for a fresh customer,
Right.
That sort of divine deployment and then onboarding of their people. That's a setup cost. And then there's the maintenance cost. But like we need to know the sort of setup for because we need to do that for different efforts, and we need to know the value of that exercise.
To
be able to, even if we're not getting it initially, we at least put it on the line to, get it back somehow.
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
Right.
and
And
I
that's
have
something.
our first customer is us. We need
No,
to do work
our
for us
first
to
customer
organize-
is our first customer is always us for sure.
Right.
But we have Restorathon customer, we have Better Worlds customer, we have Marsh Media Services customer,
Cool.
we have, all of these
Awesome.
customers that
So
we need
this is
to
a service then.
it's a
So
service.
this is a
It's a paid
service.
service.
So in essence, would you say that this could be our first service that if we organize could actually be a revenue source?
That is what is happening. Is Rob is doing the impossible task to organize D Studio, kind of, and that's like the, what do you call it, the stress test, to show how you can take something so complex and dynamic and make it efficient and smooth operations when there's so much going on, because we have so many productions going on simultaneously all the time with so many people from all over the world all the time, every day of every year. So it's not, that's just for D Studio. That's just, and the minute we have an organized system, it's just going to scale.
Wow. Cool.
So we've just been holding back until hype was ready, until the teams were ready, until,
Okay.
I've just been growing until everybody was ready to
Okay.
lift off. And now
Okay.
we're building this enterprise, and we're, that's what this year is about, is the foundational year and weaving it right so that we can lift off together and we have that financial support. That's the key result. The key, can we in a self-organized way come together to drive revenues into an ecosystem that then supports the people in that ecosystem? That's the hypothesis that we have to prove.
Right. So could we think about then what are the milestones that we need to achieve in the next month or so, or however we can envision the moving forward in a very specific way and practical way. And then once we figured out what is the goal, then we can figure out what are the goals, what are the roles that people need to play, and then whom are we lacking that cannot be done amongst us who are here. And those roles that need to be filled becomes the most urgent for us to seek somebody specifically for those roles, so that we become a team able to deliver on the milestones that we see as more important.
Yeah, well, you're asking, that is, Jeff, that is the question du jour, I would say. For me, and I can speak to that a lot, and not all the milestones, but the people and what we, because that's what I've been working on. And so, number one, I'm gonna share my screen while I'm talking, and then, it might be so. let me share my screen, and then, so basically, number one is that I feel like that the number one, role of need, right? So we've got the different roles, and then we've got the different projects. So the number one role, I think right now, an area of highest need, and I'm actually going to start, this is something that I wrote up, and I was, Zoe looked at, and I was hoping you folks could just look at and see if it reads well, but I want to start popping this out to like every Discord server channel and, other groups that I'm in, really rocket start this outreach. And the current top need, as far as I see, at least certainly for holistic systems, is, why is it so small, is project managers and like client account managers, because there's a lot of different projects of need, which are in, so right now, running holistic systems through Asana, right? So we've got a lot of these projects, right? Here's the outreach projects, got to develop, I think, this business model with like pricing, like what Basil was talking about, as far as like, okay, well, we have these certain products, we have these services, what is the pricing and the value of that? So, but what I have been finding is that I'm like managing all of these projects, and that takes a lot of time, and like project managing, I think a lot of people don't quite understand like the, how time consuming it is, and how much that you're sort of always, getting things for people and talking with people and doing things for people and all of that and facilitating that. Right. And so I can only do so much of that. Plus I'm doing a lot of the work for clients, which is roles that want to be filled. Right. So if you take, that's sort of like filling each separate role. But if I can bring in somebody, one or two people, or however many, that can do this project management, then they can start to work with me and then start to take on projects of their own, right? And then start to be a client lead for new people that come in. Because right now, as far as HSC's, concerned, that's been me, right? And so that limits growth if I can only do that. Because I can't be the only one who's managing everything and, like being the main liaison with the client. So I feel like that's number one. And then, number two is sort of in general, filling out, all of these different roles. And then saying, okay, who's, and then by with the roles, and then whoever's contributing, is basically saying, okay, like what projects, in addition to the roles, what projects are we working on, and so that's some of what, I have, here in our meeting notes today is like, like the top kind of projects of need. So yeah, so then with that, it's really like, okay, how do we execute that, and who wants to do what, so does that make sense? Does that answer a question?
Yeah, for me it makes clear how do we need to, what capacity do we need to bring in to have somebody responsible for what you just articulated? Somebody taking care of that, making that, in other words, somebody in charge of that operation, of that part of the operation. Yep.
Yeah, I think so. And I think if you have somebody who can do that, if you have, people who are able to do that, even if they're not the experts in a particular role, then that allows for larger scaling, and that allows for the ability to scale faster, if and when needed.
Well, then a version of the letter that you're publishing to attract people, maybe something very specific to attract the project manager type person that we're seeking.
Yeah, and I think, at least what I did, and you can take a look at it, is, I basically just led with that. I said, hey, we're looking for folks, our particular high area of need is project managers or client account managers,
I
to
couldn't
fill that
read it.
role.
It
And
was
then I
too-
just sort of talked about like, as briefly as I could, what it is that we're doing. So, so that's like, I think a great, call out, to the world is for that particular role. And then
Just to feed on that. So
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was something else I wanted to mention to you, is that another key service for HS is obviously recruitment for people's needs. So yeah, so we need to like figure out that value of that service too. And I as far as a role within HS, because my natural role in the ecosystem is as a recruiter, I've never been compensated for that service before, but that's my main service, is like getting like circles together, recruiting for people's needs across the board, really, but especially in my focus.
Mhm.
But we need to like sort of draft like, what is that, because that HS is going to have recruiters, talent managers, coaches, mentors in its ecosystem, and that's part of its database, but they're also providing services to that talent pool over time. We need to weave the nester in and everything, because that was the key. I couldn't, the reason why it's necessary for holistic systems in the ecosystem or that function is because D Studio is like not a, it's like Linux, think Linux. It's just a layer to provide production services and goes between like client and then talent. But all of the talent that are providing services in this creative fields, they all need mental health. They all need coaching. They all need all of this stuff. And so that's when we get to that level of we have our superstar or whatever, like artists and talent, and then we have our like healers and coaches, and then we're like internally matching and we're doing tokenomic exchanges there. That will be a beautiful, beautiful machine right there.
Yeah.
For the humans.
Yeah. Beautiful machine. And let me just pop this out to you, since we're on that. I know we're sort of going in a few different places, but really what I've been working on a lot lately, is this kind of business model and the pricing model. In order to say, like, do the numbers actually work? Like are the numbers there? Well, and so I've been thinking about it lately. Is this like primarily as like this platform model? With the twist that the platform is run by the people who are on, both sides of the model. But then the pricing models, I think that there's I don't know, there's two that are coming in. Number one is a little bit more conventional, which is like, pricing for services. Okay, we want this service, or we want an on-demand team that can do A, B, and C, and we're going to do that. But I think that the second one is this like subscription or like more like a membership model, which is like access. It's membership. It's rather than just, hey, I'm a person, I want services. Okay, you pay for those, but it's like more, okay, come into the ecosystem and you have access to all of these internal resources, that the systems and the coaches and the the contacts and the cross collaboration and all of that. So I guess my question just to the group is like, does that sound like it's gonna fly? And then how does the like the membership model kind of really work?
Well,
go ahead, Basil.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Rob, I think that like we spoke about this, and this is something that I have envisioning, and this is what I was calling membership co-founding, and it's a matter of think about as a way of us bringing in the seed capital to create the infrastructure, what we're calling the platform, and this is a user-owned platform, right? Well, it's kind of like a cooperative that has some fees or funding. So it's a utility. It's a utility fee as a subscription to have access to being able to participate in this new way of earning, purposefully earning your livelihood. And this becomes the funds by which we all contribute a little to create this share infrastructure that enables all of us to operate as networks and have this network effect. So in essence, this particular membership is maybe for particular groups or circles, or however we organize the type of work that we're going to do. And again, this is the idea, and I have an idea of purpose spaces rather than market spaces to organize the way that we can all come together and capitalize on this purposeful synergism that we talk about it. Like for instance, there is the project Basil was talking about the productions and kind of organizing. I don't know what kind of productions it is, but some kind of video production, a film production, or media production.
Events, meta events, VR events, hybrid events, live broadcast, docu-film, commercial film, all of those, anything with film media and print, magazine, all of it.
Also, so let's say media production, events and media production. So that in itself is a way that we're going to reorganize the way all media is produced from an extractive to an regenerative way. And that creates a whole new set of roles to be played. So you pay to the space that we're going to co-create for media that Basil is creating, and then there's a particular fee to participate and be a co-creator into that space, right? So that becomes a network that provides services to other networks in the ecosystem, and that kind of thing becomes a way for just think that Facebook was owned by all the users, and every user comes up with $10 to fund the development of it, right?
Same if Amazon was owned by the producers and the users. Exactly. So all we're doing is we're building in these functions like agency services into the ecosystem, HR services into the ecosystem. And then those services and the people that are working in those layers doing those services, they're supported by the ecosystem. They support the ecosystem, and then everybody is sharing the bounty in various ways. But at the end of the day, we're growing billions of dollars worth of value across multiple industries for one ecosystem rather than just focusing on film production. We have agriculture, we have marketplaces, we have everything. It's a full meta stack. So we have to be thinking like every single community needs the stack from ground up through advertising, every community. And we were able to come in like as a service. They come to HS, they come to the ecosystem as a service. We can come in and facilitate all of these different integrated, holistic, whole systems for any business, any household, any community, really.
Yeah.
Eventually, but that's what we've been working on, is all of those different abilities. And the key one was that sort of blockchain circle governance, sociocratic ability. With that solved more or less, now we can really test our theories, really.
Yep. Yeah, Rob, and this is also the way that we shift from the current model being opposing value gains to being alignment value gains, in terms of that we are the entrepreneurs here, but we are not selling the potential earnings of our future to somebody who has the money right now as a venture capitalist that can pay $1 million to take 50% of our future. No, we're coming here as entrepreneurs ourselves, putting a little bit of money so that we can all benefit from creating a user-owned infrastructure. So that totally justifies why anybody is going to be contributing, right? So you contribute to distribute. That's kind of like the
Like
yeah,
that.
that's it. You have access to distribute because you're contributing. You're contributing ideas, you're contributing talent, but you're also contributing a little fiat.
Right. And in
Contribute.
the old world, I want to hear from you, Zoe, but yeah, in the
Cool.
old world, just to be like giving people what they know. If you go into it to a third party HR aggregator, or if you are in a talent like a William Morris, or you have an agent, or you have managers, or you have all of these things, people are taking 20, 30, 40, 50, 60% of your entire gross earnings as a talent in the old model, the record labels, all of that stuff, right? And so that's not foreign to people paying into the bigger system. But in this case, the bigger system is owned by them. And that's it.
Right.
And so we need people to we need people to defer into the system. So like, we set standardized rates for everybody, probably somewhere between 25 and 125 an hour. And right now we have more or less that, but that's not what the people actually get available out of Treasury. Part of that is going into sort of the token futures of that system, of that. And in the HiFi ecosystem, each one of these DAOs has their own tokens. So if we can help support each one of these, or as many of these, DAO organizations to have cash flow inputs, then we can start to see the benefits of this deferment ultimately, hopefully. It'll take a little while. It'll take a few years.
Mm-hmm.
Zoe?
But we begin to test it,
Yep.
and in the testing it, we find out whatever it's necessary to make it ultimately, by iteration, we will find the right formula.
The key for me is like having, assets that then allow for the ultimate liquidity of those futures, the people or those tokens. They're not secured anything yet. We want, but we can provide liquidity pools for each organization. So like HSC can have a pool that maybe 10% of its income goes into that pool that's managed. And then we if we all are creating, like all of the organizations, the studio, everybody is creating these liquidity pools. And then we have our like ecosystem top managers helping us manage the growth of those liquidity pools while they're sitting there. And then that allows people in emergencies in the organization. Each organization can set, kind of rules and stages for what they can provide to their members. But sometimes, certain members, they have a life event and they need some extra quick support. And if they have enough of those tokens backed up and we have liquidity pools, then we can like save the day for them, or give them that sort of future security. That's what everybody wants. They want the now and they want the future security. And if we can manifest that, it's going to require us having like probably bank liquidity pools that is insured, FDI insured. We need to protect this stuff too.
Yeah. Zoe, I'm right. I know. I mean, this is all great. I mean, my open question, in this is where do we, again, we have these steps and we have these, that we're working on now, but my open question is, how to start bringing in some of this money, in the near future, and who, how to create, because we're creating that membership, the access to it. I don't know. I'm just, I'm not, it's just a matter of like connecting the dots for where we're, it's basically really what it is again, and this is sort of my koan. It's like, right, how am I sustaining myself now as we're building this out? And how do we
that's what I wanted to talk about today, is because we have our projects that have, we'll have more budget, but then we're ready to also bring on projects that are fully funded already. So so that's why I was curious, like, you know, what we need to do is we just need to price it, and we were supposed to get to that. So yeah, Rob, so that's something
Yeah,
that,
we're,
like,
yeah, that's exactly.
so for the Restore-a-thon is a nonprofit. It is now forming a co-production agreement with Better Worlds. The studio is handling all of the coordination there and co-production under that shell. That's a 501c3. And then we're going to start to get more support and sponsorships and money's coming in. But we need to know what the real cost of creating that onboarding Airtable for them, if that's what John wants. You know, we already have the Asana board that we need to put a number on for what that part of the cost per event.
Well, let's get
this is for
for sure. Let me, because I actually let me show you, because you know there's this pricing guide, right, that Zoe and I have been talking about and working on. So let me show you that. We could talk about, you know, exactly what you're saying while I'm looking at that. And I think before we jump into that, maybe Zoe could open up a little space, you know, for your thoughts and insights.
Okay. I'm mostly just like you know, learning about the way that you guys see this, because I haven't had the chance to, you know, talk about these things with you yet. And it's nice to just hear the picture, you know, visually in my mind's eye, see the picture that Jeff is painting of how he sees this going, of how Basil sees this going. And I'm right now drawing my own picture that I've been working on of how it will go, considering the, you know, money flows and what I've been calling the treasury pool, but what Basil called the liquidity pool is super important to me and how this goes. So I'm glad that he brought that up. And I still want to learn more about D Studios, and I have really no idea, but it sounds like there's a lot of cool stuff going on for potential revenue that could help beef up the liquidity pool. But what I have been working on or thinking about myself lately has been on-demand products. So I think on-demand products where you create something and after you've created it, the work is done. You could just sell it online. I think those might be the easiest way for HSC to beef up the liquidity pool so that we're not working ourselves to death. So that's what I've been working on, are on-demand products. But yeah, of course, non-on-demand products and, you know, services, actual labor, that's going to be a huge factor as well. So I want to hear more about D Studios and the projects that you have going on. And yeah, I've been drawing a nice little picture, and everything you guys are all saying fit into it. It works. So
Cool.
yeah.
So what those products that you're designing, can you give me like a one product that you like that's easy for people?
So because I do social media right now, all of them have to do with social media. You could have these little on-demand trend lists just for people to know what audios are trending. Super easy, sell it for a few bucks. Trend lists, you could have example hooks, scripts.
You have your Trello boards.
Yeah, Trello boards, content
on.
calendars. 6 months worth of content all planned out for you. It won't be customized. If you want a custom version, hire us, you know.
Well, I need to focus on bigger budget pools, like 6-figure and up ultimately. So we need to know what our A team can do to sell that A team, really. So like for these Restore-a-thon events, that's going to we're going to start shooting the podcast like next week. So each event cycle is 6 podcasts topical about a situation. We're starting with East Palestine, and then following that there's a hackathon that it's probably going to run through, we want to onboard everybody through the social media post. We've already started writing scripts for like these, like, I had AI chatbot write a script for this, but with the style of like a monster truck rally, like commercial, like a 15-second, 30-second. So we want to start to showcase our ability to create good viral content, and then the media marketing planning strategy, organic and paid,
Great.
for that. And that's so some of our ecosystem teams, Tucker and Sid, are working on the side. Sid's more focused on the event side, and then Tucker on event, but he also is really strong with like some of the digital marketing side of things. But that's like, everybody needs that service. So like when you meet Kim here in Tulsa, like we can start picking up clients to provide those services. So we just need to know the cost for putting together at least the US dollar valuation of putting together a digital marketing plan for a 60-day cycle per event. And that can be like we can model on Restorathon. And then we need to put it together other budgets for like I said, is putting together project management for an event, for a collaborative executed event. So we already have the Asana board set up. We should figure out what that cost is, just so that we have it down and we can at least put it on Treasury. And then we need to figure out other projected HR costs for project management support over the life cycle of one event. And we want that to be as lean as possible to start. But we need to, so this Restorathon will give us a sense, because we have so many different moving parts, to be able to test our ability to handle like global mainstream A-team kind of work. But we're coming out of the garage on this. It's overlapping. It's 6 weeks plus 4, so that's 10 weeks plus a party. So it's almost like a 12-week cycle or less per location, per event cycle. And then we do like 9 of those a year, just like overlapping. And so that means that we're going to have to split the teams. We're going to need to have project managers handling East Palestine, having another project management team handling Turkey, Syria, having another project management team having California, the Grass Valley or whatever. And we have, so we can start to test our ability to orchestrate and conduct and coordinate like mass movement, but through these, through doing things that are like not rocket science, like managing events, productions, podcasts, marketing cycles. And if we can coordinate all of those different moving parts into like a beautiful, engine, then we can move a lot of people. So the goal is that for the Restorathons, we have our collaborative entities coming together to save the world, essentially. And HSC's role in that is to help with overall project management, architecture, design, maintenance, assigning somebody to be just dedicated to watching those boards and communicating with the producers or as needed. But we want to make it as self-reliant as possible for the organizers. So it's like we set it up and then hopefully they can like run it. We need to, so that's the Airtable cost. Then that's this Asana cost for project management. Then there's the Airtable onboarding for the Restorathon branded onboarding. And that's where we gather all of our list of all of the guests and sponsors and people and tech companies and all of that.
So I think,
that's the cost.
Yeah. So I think let me just show you, and then about like pricing, and because and then see, okay, who might be able to help or jump in on this and provide some wisdom and whatnot. And just say, and I know you like you get this, Basil, but just to say that, like, I do think that on like, what Zoe's talking about as far as on-demand products, I mean, that's right. That's not an instant, money maker right now. And it's still like I still think that that's a valid area and arena to start in on, and especially, with this idea, if that's where Zoe, if that's where your energy is going, then that's something where you can be leading, leading that circle, leading that, okay, say like, okay, well, what on-demand products are there? Okay, well, I'm gonna be the person who's gonna be, thinking about that, bringing in other people come and have those ideas, because I have like I have so many like templates and crap, like that.
Well,
that could be great on-demand products.
just
So if somebody is sort of helping be the lead facilitator for that, then that's complementary to everything else that's going on.
you need to have most of these DAOs need to have their product circle. And so, yeah, if Zoe can like lamplight and start that up as like the circle lead to start that up, that would be awesome. And then she can like bring people in to surround her for that product circle. And then she's part of the anchor circle, or that sort of, seed circle of the organization. But the product circle has a unique function and a need over time. There's milestones, and that way we can start to put like treasury budget towards development of product.
Yeah.
While it's
because
ultimately going to bring back treasury in the end. That's where investment can go into the product.
Right.
Yeah, product development.
And I think that that there's a secondary piece there, which is that it's not just selling products, but that's really, in fact, it might be even more important is like, at least the ones like kind of Zoe's talking about is lead generation, right? Because that's a way you put out these things and maybe they don't, cost that much. And maybe we, don't earn that much, but if that's a lead generation item that then pulls in someone to become, part of the community and access more services, then that's doing a lot.
The other thing I want to talk, go ahead.
Can you clarify, Basil? So I don't know if what is it called? Restorathon, is that your client?
That is a co-development project, but essentially it's John Connors has created that. And that's a entity to drive funding and work with our foundational partners into cleaning up the planet through activation of people and all of the best minds on the planet.
Okay.
And then going to the companies and yeah, go ahead.
I'm just trying to understand because so you were saying that with these studios you have potential to make not just a few bucks, but like you said, many hundreds of thousands. So Restorathon is like a means for you to find clients. Is that what you're saying?
Restorathon is a means to get corporate and foundational monies into treasury through our fiscal 501c3 and then co-share sponsorships and then drive money into better worlds, which then helps to support D Studio's ecosystem of talent to like continue to produce our various platforms. That's just one thing. Then we just set up our US based production company with our Native American business lead, Adam Proctor, Muskogee Creek here in Oklahoma, called Borrowed Lands Production. And so I've been shooting for the last 6 years, and there's probably like 200K invested in production on capturing the story of humanity's transition. Started in Thailand with that, but all of that footage and investment is then going to go into a film project called Borrowed Lands, a series, a kind of a franchise model show. And we have our fiscal partner in LA from the Heart Productions, Carol Dean and her daughter. And so we're ramping that up to get like, we need like 7 figures for that.
Wow.
So we need 7 figures to really do that right. Because we need to pay for cameos and like all of that stuff,
Cool.
as it
And
goes.
that's really cool.
And then what you can do, and this is exciting because what I've been kind of doing lightly just to like be able to bring cash treasury in to support all this is just through my production services as a director, as a DP, because that's like sometimes can be anywhere between 1,000 to 4,000 a day for
Wow, very
just
cool.
shooting,
That's
just
what I
shooting.
wanna hear about. Okay.
So when you see my portfolio and we can go for quick hitting NGOs who need films. So I don't like to work with corporations that are just toxic.
Okay.
I said no to that when I was really young. I've stepped over the line a little bit, but it made sense.
Yeah, I get it.
And the budgets were like huge. So, but the point is aligned tech companies that are in this regenerative movement
Okay.
that need photography, commercial grade photography, commercial grade films, or viral film, or NGOs or foundations or funds or banks that are cool, or anything like that, financial institutions that are cool that need continuous content flows. So then we set up pipelines. So what D Studio was, the first products that D Studio was focusing on inside Haifa was for the Seeds Passport was, developing pipelines to handle like volume production for people to have constant social engagement for their brands. And so those are agency level packages. But D Studio, that's, because I came out of like global network agency, and this D Studio is just started with the name was Big Trees. It's still kind of Big Trees agency. But the point is we want to be able to provide the level of creative agency services, brand services to the little guy, to the small guy. And we cannot do that if we're expecting them to pay us our value because they can't afford us. So not the elite level of people that we have in our network that we need to bring to the table. So the only way that we can access the elite talent to support the little guy is if the little guy is willing to provide back end return to the entity, to holistic systems, to whoever's providing the services, to the talent even. That way, like people can pay it forward. If they're like superstar, they can come down and work for this NGO for like low amount of cash or even zero cash if they're rich, for those that are. And then they get all the token value in the entity. And then we're growing the treasuries. Then like when there's return from a brand, if we start a startup, we go to a startup, an entrepreneur. So like imagine that holistic systems, Haifa, D Studio, all of that is a place for the talent and the entrepreneurs to play safely. So when the entrepreneur comes into HSC to start up and they need a C-suite, we can organize a circle for them to help guide them. We can organize a marketing team for them. We can organize their brand with our brand team, our best ecosystem, whoever's available, but we have that service. And then we as the talent can pour in our passion to somebody else's vision and help their vision thrive, because there's a mechanism to get the return if they go unicorn, for instance, or if they whatever, anything, any kind of return. And a lot of it, doesn't really provide a return. That's why we need the corporate, or we need those kind of budgets, those major budgets to support the ecosystem talent. So then we have time to also support the little guy too. And we use those same monies. We bring the money from the Volvos, put it into the treasury. And then part of that treasury can be dedicated to helping to subsidize the little guy or whatever.
Money from the what? The
Robin Hood. You take the money from the rich and you spread it out to those who need.
Cool.
Volvo,
I'm all
he
about
said,
that.
Volvos.
Volvo.
As an
Volvos,
example client.
the corporate money, like the CSR money, or like the major network monies.
And so then
advertising profits.
And then what you're saying is that the little guy or the little person comes in, and what they're, even though they don't have a large budget, what they're paying with is their investment into the ecosystem. Is that it's just it's like deferment. So like when I come to work with holistic systems as a recruiter, I can put in a role and I can take no cash. I can just take token. And maybe in the future there will be redemption for that, maybe not. But the point is through this system that Hype has been working on, and that's why I went into them, is to provide this level of service so that I can do what I want to do, which is to serve the world passionately. I don't need to really worry about money, but my value is not, I mean, I do need to worry about money for the thing, but it's like, I've stripped down my life to nothing. I've given up pretty much all material. So I can be pretty light, but the cost of running productions is expensive. So that money needs to come from somewhere. So, so I can defer for the future. And then hopefully in 20 years or so, then that becomes my retirement fund based upon my cumulative service in the ecosystem and gathering all of those tokens. You know, that's the goal, is so that like we take out the minimum that we need as a community. We don't get greedy in the groups in the ecosystem, because we're building all of this global wealth. We're building all this wealth of the ecosystem, and then we get access to that based upon like what we pour into it, and then that's fair. But it's, you know, so yeah, the bottom line is right now this week it's 100% on grant funding, foundational funding, loans, whatever, money into bank, into treasury, to be able to, like, you know, stabilize. And then we only need one of those kind of NGO jobs a month to pull in $10,000 to $50,000 gross. And that's the budget. So like for instance, we did a shoot for ACLU. So these foundations like ACLU, so ACLU Oklahoma, 50K. I paid some shooters to shoot the Trump rally and Black Lives Matter rally in Tulsa. And then I shot the interviews and did all the edit. It was a difficult client to work with, but it's 50K, these foundation, you know, so that's kind of our target. Companies that are cool, product companies that are cool, that want support, you know, and for now, for the near future, for the next 3 months, we try to keep that as much as friends and family easy, but we can bring in complete outside. So over the past year, my clients have been CNBC, LinkedIn News, Bloomberg News, Freethink, Hearst TV, a bunch of like 60-second commercial spots or interstitials where they're just a story about a person with some B-roll, creatively edited with like really good music we have full access to Universal Music Library. So I was able to pull whatever I wanted. And those are 60 seconds, just like, you know, they're meant to be high volume. And that's what we can deliver to like a brand. We can say, hey, instead of you paying $20,000 for one film for 3 minutes long that nobody sees, how about you pay $20,000 and we give you 10 films, 60 seconds, 30 seconds, 60 seconds that you can, like, you know, use. And so if they're like a bank customer and then they have customers and they're supporting like small businesses, we can like do a single day story shoot of a small business owner, quick interview, 10 minutes, because these are 60 seconds. So 10-minute interview, 2-hour B-roll, done, and then edit. So we can be efficient, hyper efficient with volume-based pricing. So that, and because now with the AI, that's what people are going to be expecting. If we're not machine speed with this stuff, like, it's, you know, so we have to sell ourselves as like, that was the other thing with D Studio, because I saw that it was just going to continue to go to automation. We want to like present this like the art of many hands. So we have like many humans working together to help you thrive. And maybe only one human puts in a finger, some executive producer somewhere. But it's like, that's what people coming into HSC as entrepreneurs, they can like start to expect, is that sort of
very like holistic concierge service to find what they're looking for and build the team that they need. And I think that'll be a, yeah, we'll test it internally. Like we said earlier, Jeff said earlier, it's like, oh, we are the first customer. So we have to like do that.
Got it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that was really helpful. Awesome.
Oh, good.
Very cool.
Yeah, thank you, Basil. Yeah, so much. Yes to all that. I know. Yes to all this. I'm just looking at the time, and there's not actually like a time limit on the meeting, but sort of kind of start, think about it as like a 2-hour meeting. Again, we can keep going, and I do think that it might be a good time now to take a look at like, okay, what are we leaving with? What are like action steps? Who's doing what, that kind of thing. So why don't I'm going to pull this up on my screen, and I've been taking notes on everything. So, really there's the one thing that we didn't specifically get to, but we're talking about is pricing, right? So everything, if we look at this is, something I made a little while ago, right? This is like, these are all different services that we can provide, project management, and, these are operational services. This is systems integration, which needs to happen. There's a lot of different services, right? Events, launches, there's a lot of different things, sales and marketing, digital platform management, websites, things like that, content creation, obviously a lot there, admin stuff. So, the idea of, it seems very important. I think we're all talking about this. It seems very important and timely to have an idea of like what all these services are like cost. So in other words, to have like, what Basil's, calling kind of like this retail rate for everything. So that way we know we could go to a client and say, okay, well, we can, whatever, we can make, 10 videos, and the actual cost that takes, meaning like the retail rate based on value, based on, market, based on, also the way I like to look at it is what are the needs of, meeting the needs of the people who are doing these jobs, so, and then that's a starting place, from there. And then a person might say, or a larger company might say, sure, no problem. A smaller business might say, well, I don't have that, that money. And then that begins, the conversation. But I think that's where we need to start. I think that's what we've been talking about, Basil.
Sorry.
There. And so, I've started like, a bunch of work as far as trying to, I don't know, figure that out. It's something I need, I really, that's a plan for this week and this weekend for me. But
so yeah, that is a hard part there, Rob. You're right. Especially when we're trying to like change the game. But yeah, we have that one spreadsheet that I put together that was designed for us to work with the sort of current HIFA cost is, and then we can add the multiplier for like how we bill outward for external cost. Back in the days when Pavel was leading D Studio and like designing everything, he had it sit that we had a work breakdown structure for the job, per unit. Like if it was like 20 films or 100 films, it's like, what is the work breakdown for that film cost? And then we then we dropped it, and then half of that we added. So then essentially 1/3 of the budget to customer transparently goes to general OpEx. And that helps pay for all the role assignments cash and all of the costs. So 1/3 goes to studio essentially. And then the rest of it is for internal labor processing quests or whatever. And then the key here is that those subquests, like say an editor, say for $50 to $75 an hour of value, 35 to 75 an hour for value, for the majority, then 100, I guess, is the top. That they don't necessarily, they working with us, they're deferring a percentage. So even some of that sub money for each of the HR jobs stays in general treasury. So that's, so the goal is that we want to stabilize the talent. We don't want it to be like this, like job to job for the freelancers. We want to like help to do this, but we can't do that if we're not building that bank, that treasury that Zoe was talking about.
And so I yes. And so I think that where I'm saying, okay, where we're leaving today with is, is that like like what is the process for doing that? It seems to me, and I don't know that there's an easier way, around it, but it seems like the process for doing that is for each and every one of those services, like you saw, on the list, or each and, like, okay, starting up an asana, each and one of those services, myself or somebody needs to go through and do that, like, kind of work breakdown structure, and do and say, okay, like this is our, this is what it costs, these are the estimates, and then just have that break that out for each one of those. So so I guess the question is, who is, does anybody know anyone who's good at like pricing? I mean, I know, Bezo, this is something that I talked, with you about, and you said, yeah, I'll work with you on this. I feel like, it'll be good for me to kind of make a start on it, and then, I can bring you in, but it's also, it's a big job. And so I think that, that's also a role that if somebody, there's got to be someone out there who's like good at pricing things or understands that. So I'm just bringing that in.
Yeah, well, like the reality is like in America, 35, so $70,000 a year prorated is already high for most people in America. So like bands 1, 2, 3, 4 for our talent bands. Then from those, it's just a case of like, okay, so project manager A, but this is like an advanced project manager that's like a band 4. Maybe you're like, charging a band 5 or band 4, or, whoever the designer is, maybe. But the point is plus you're like the head of the organization. So like your time is like the most valuable. You're really going to ultimately be like a band 7 for HSC, if not from the start, whatever. But the point is the client comes in, they have the need, they need, say, videos edited. Then the question is we have to have the onboarding of that. We need to ask the right questions, like how much footage, how many hours, like what do you shoot it with? Is there sync sound? And what do you want out of it? What are the deliverables? Like how many? What is the length of the deliverables? What is the deadline for that? Or when do they want it out? Or does it have one? And then what grade do they want it? Do they want it like, if they have the source that's already good, or we shoot it for them, which is the ideal, then we're going to our top commercial grade editors, which are going to be in that value of like band 5, band 6, probably, for them to touch it. We don't have to pay those editors $75, $100 an hour if they're part of our team, and they're helping us build the studios. Then they're deferring part of that, so that we're able to pay still 35 to 50, but we're charging for more. More is coming into the treasury transparently. But the point is to like get the frequency flow of service, paid services, to prove that the smallest team we can like float, we can subsidize to like take care of like multiple people system.
So All right, well, let's just, maybe I'm just, I was hoping to do it last weekend, but it didn't have, other things came in. So maybe I just take a stab at, like that this weekend. Zoe was talking about doing something like that for like, social media, right? Because that's, because there's also, and you have some of this, Basil, just, for, the media production, because then it's, who's doing what job, but then it's also how long that, like, how long it takes to do that particular job, and then that sort of comes out with the price. So maybe I just sort of like, take it on as my weekend project, which I was planning on doing anyways. And then like Basil, you and I can then take, what I have and what you have, and then see how to extrapolate it, from there into other services, that aren't priced out. Yeah. So, okay.
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
think we have
because
an
we
idea,
definitely need to
like
have something on paper, like,
yeah. All right. Okay, so all right, well, that's a plan for that. I think that what else do I have here? I don't know if there's anything, that we, well, get into that right now. Maybe we just sort of to talk about, because I think, Jeff, and Basil's like, all right, I'm done here. I'm just kidding. No, sometimes, his stuff runs out of batteries or whatever. Yeah, maybe, we just talk about like where we're, what we're taking away, and then also, like what our action steps are for the week, or, Jeff, that's one thing that you and I, that we came with last time, as far as, here's, as far as like, okay, what are the, I think that there were three, let me just look here, three different, like we were talking about, okay, like there's the like initial, community offer, the initial coin offer that, you've had some thoughts about that. We were also talking about, okay, well, like there's filling out these like applications for grants and for, particular incubators, and that have money. So that's, also something could collaborate on. And then, also you're talking about, like the value proposition and how we're bringing that to people and refining that. So, yeah, I don't know. So Jeff, what are your thoughts on?
Yeah, no, I tell you, I'm fascinated by everything that I've been hearing and here, and I have a real kind of a clear sense of how we can bring it all together. So in some of the things that I have been looking at, big picture, meta level, is that as we move from being an extractive civilization to becoming a regenerative civilization, so what is it that we're going to do? Well, we're going to evolve the way we consume and produce everything. So now let's think about it. Let's begin with evolving the way we are going to produce and consume, like hackathons, but now they're going to be restorathons, right? So the restorathon, right, is going to be the media-driven, media event, participatory, live vehicle by which humans are going to self-organize the activation of bioregions to begin to bring within all the people who are ready to become the restorathoners of Earth, right? So basically we're building a, so we're going to figure out a new way to build ships, building the first ship. So the project in itself is a huge vision, right? But it's the perfect vehicle or metaphor or way for us to, as an organization, as a new way of organizing, is that the Restorathon is the way we begin to demonstrate what I call contextualization as a service. So we are putting the concepts and the metaphor for the restorathon as the context that elicits the emergence of anyone who wants to transition in the way they do their work from the extractive system to the regenerative system. Henceforth, the restorathon becomes like the way we co-activate, the way we bring a context for humans to begin to transform the way they relate to go into the transition, right? So when this is put in that context, then we shift from, think of the idea of us. So who's going to be responsible for making this? Is it us humans or is it us humanity, right? And is it us humanity? So what is possible or not possible for us humanity? Anything that we put our minds together does that. Do we want to accelerate the healing of climate change? Do we know that we need to transition from extractive to regenerative? Do we in all seats want to transform from that kind of civilization? Well, this is a vehicle. This is the vehicle that we're simply articulating here. And now we recognize that we have all the tools, right? So in essence, it's sort of like, this is our Noah's Ark, man. And we have an app for that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's it. And you know, this is what we have come to recognize, how to allow it to emerge through us. And we're just now formalizing it so others can also see it. And we're just contextualizing it. So again, we deliver on that principle, that core principle. So the context that we are forming is a way for us to provide a space that designates an inclusive role for everyone to have any kind of potential to make this a reality, to begin to capitalize and fulfill their potential, their life fulfillment potential, towards creating a whole new reality, new cultural and socioeconomic reality.
So one of the early sort of taglines that I was working on coming out of the forest was that what this enables us is finally the many can support the many. It's no longer the many supporting the few, or the few trying through foundations to support the many. That does not work.
Absolutely. The convergence of, yeah, absolutely. And this is totally perfect with, just to share, I've been working with Stefan Osmer from Local Scale. And I have been proposing pretty much a way to begin to a strategy to begin to co-activate all bioregions. And I just had an email exchange with Joe Brewer to also bring the bioregional design schools into this first. So this, it's like we can organize and present this as the vehicle to converge all the movements and to begin to go from opposing value gains to aligned value gains by so many people that can begin to participate. And we have, I think that we have all the tools. And now being very specific and very practical, how we are making this a reality is basically by this Airtables that you're doing and this pricing everything, we sort of like, we're contextualizing as the buyer or as the client, right? We are figuring out a more economic way to do all this thing that is possible. And in that project, we're basically simply creating the spaces to provide for roles for many people to participate and contribute their potential to make this a reality, right? So by contextualizing this, we are kind of like we're kind of like being the purchasing agent for humanity as a whole to begin to harness all that potential, and then we're inviting people to volitionally begin to contribute their potential, and then just show them how this becomes a whole new way to organize, develop, and capitalize their potential in this celebration, man. The celebrate, because this is going to be so we're going to organize a huge party for everyone to begin to activate the bioregions through restorathons. And I mean, I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what I think.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I did understand. I did go to restorathon, and I did so the last time I did, and I couldn't understand. But now I think I'm understanding a little bit, in the sense that this is something that somebody, some kind of producer or you are putting together.
John Connors, I just messaged him. So I'm about to put together the org chart for our initial, like, who's going to be like the circle leads, like Sydney Harvey, and Tucker, and then Rob, and then me, and then it sounds like you can come in and provide some sort of support, because we definitely want to. I was about to submit. I've written a letter for like Haifa DAO. I want these local scale.
Yeah.
We can start to sort of weave it all in to what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have been seeing some new videos from Reiki and the guys from Haifa, and there's a new seed collaboratory that is perfect for this. And
we'll pitch to them too, because
and the Nester is a perfect tool to begin to organize the emerging teams too. But more importantly, the last spreadsheet that I sent you, Rob, well, I have a new one that further expands on how the way the correlation model shift from opposing value gains at every stage of the production to aligned value gains into now this being a network of a mesh of networks that's the next. So this is how I see a possibility of contextualizing the emergence of collaborathon in every bioregion, and just having there, okay, let's, we're going to create this huge infrastructure that is going to be co-activated by teams. So we organize the teams that are going to be the anchors or the co-founders of the restorathon for every ecosystem, and we look at the particular projects, right? Or in other words, all we're doing is organizing, right, this project as you have already envisioned it, and then articulating or formalizing, customizing it for every bioregion. Every bioregion is going to have a particular area that needs to be restored, that all kinds of organizations are willing to put money to have it restored. So that becomes the anchor project for the people in the bioregion to come together and support and fund. And all we do is organize the teams, how the teams are going to begin to achieve the organization of the restorathon. And the restorathon is an event. It's just simply an event for certain projects. But that is now then that is a way to contextualizing the emergence of all the Gen Zers and all the millennials who want this new civilization to begin to come together and transform, beginning with this. So the restorathon becomes the vehicle by which we culturally deliver all the memes necessary for producing a mindset shift. that takes on us itself. And from there, then all kinds of new possibilities become realizable because they have impregnated these newer civils, newer generations with the potentialities for this new way that anybody is now being allowed to co-create and participate and begin to engage with imagination to simply let's play. This is awesome, man.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. Zoe, any thoughts as we're winding the meeting down?
I'm just gonna process stuff a bit more and keep making my little notes over here, and maybe at next meeting we could talk about it more. Yeah.
Cool.
By the way, I paint a big picture, but I don't really think that by any chance we're going to start with a big picture, because it's just a matter of starting.
We already are part of a big picture. We're just like growing the big picture.
We start with the big picture, and then the here
Yes,
and now.
so that's where we
so
that's where we're going.
So,
But if we can do one, we can do 100. We can do 100. We can do as many as necessary.
Yeah. So I have your email, I think, Jeff. So I'll send you something. Where are you located?
In Orlando, east coast of Orlando,
Perfect.
in the Melbourne Beach.
Perfect.
Half an hour south of Cape Canaveral.
What languages do you speak?
English and Spanish.
Okay. All right. Good. I might want to like try testing you as like definitely as like a guest on things. I want you to be like integrated with this whole
Sure.
thing.
Yeah, but by the way,
on camera.
As you were speaking, I said, "Oh man, I got to tell him what." I was the architect of Produ.com, PRODU.com. That's the portal for a Hispanic entertainment industry. For anybody doing production, television production, and movies, and the technology and all that. I was the original architect of that, and I launched the first multimedia magazine for Latin America.
Cool.
And also,
what's it called again?
Produ, PRODU.com. Produ, like production,
cool.
but Produ. And so to bring this kind of project into the Hispanic world, it's like I can totally plug into the who's who of this.
Badass.
Perfect. All right. Okay. All right. Rob, it's been a long meeting. Rob turned off. Okay, cool. So thank you all.
Yeah. Fantastic. Beautiful. Excellent. This is
thank
awesome.
you all. So I just had to put some food in the oven. I'm gonna eat soon. Yes, seriously, thank you all. Many thanks. This is great. I love that we're just, I feel like the more people that we bring together, in this and connecting with everybody in Basel, these students, just all of this more than the more it's going to realize and actualize. So I certainly have my action steps for the week. I think everybody, I don't know that I think everybody sort of has, kind of aligned what they're doing and what we're working on, and we can continue to be in touch this week.
We need to have more action-oriented meetings, because this was not an action-oriented meeting. We got to almost action at the end, but it was a good discovery meeting. It was very valuable. But like for the DAO, we need a weekly meeting to talk about proposals and what we're doing, and putting it into the code to sort of test that. And that only needs to be an hour, but we need to at some point get to that.
Then maybe this is a good, because this is something that I, that I'm going to do, and I'm thinking about maybe like, an action item for all of us this week is to be thinking about what are our action items, essentially, like what are the the roles that are needed, get really specific, so let's get really specific. What are the roles that are needed for this? What are the roles that I could fill? And what are like the particular, assignments or quests, as we're calling, or projects as we want to call them. So, I think if everybody's thinking about that, we can, come back next week and say, okay, like, these are the things that we need, that are gonna make forward progress.
I would actually suggest that we can even be more specific and say, okay, what is the project or the 2 or 3 projects that we want to really begin to realize?
We have them. It's Better
Right.
Worlds Media Network
Mhm.
and Restorathon, which is built into that, and our XR platforms. We have everything from the
Right.
best people on earth that we could find in operation, and it's been in like operation for a time. And we just need to, we already have the Asana board. So like for this Restorathon, Rob,
But
Asana board is going to start to evolve into more action. So we need to start.
Yeah, and you and I need to connect about that, and as far as the project management. But I think, I think that it's also, if we're talking about this big picture, holistic systems, or what, what are, I think Jeff's saying, well, what are his for the week? What are Zoe's, like what? Because right now they don't have specific action items or projects in Restorathon.
Okay, so for that, what I see is that, okay, so we are holistic systems, and we are having 2 projects that we are going to organize, and we're gonna govern ourselves accordingly to achieve the delivery and the implementation of these two projects, right? So then this is actually 2 become the same thing, in the sense that, okay, if as an organization, these are the 2 projects that we need to deliver, we need to implement, what is it that each of us is going to do to implement this project? So it becomes the same thing. And so in the delivering of what's needed to achieve the projects, we find out our roles, the purposeful synergism that we have been speaking about. In the meantime, we begin to onboard more people, but it's the same thing. We keep on growing HSC as we keep on becoming more proficient, or as we need more people to begin to deliver what are the milestones to realize the 2 projects. We focus into the 2 projects. We just need to then find which is our role, because according to my capacities and my skills and my contributions, in a way that is more synergistic and complementary to all of you who are my team. So the team is already formed in here, and we take complementary roles because we have the 2 projects that we need to implement. So the project attributes and the team attributes begin to brought together, this is what my model delivers.
Right.
And
this is,
I can present that.
Yeah, so I think that's, that I think that's right on. And, an asana, right, is just a representation of that, but it's very practical, right? So it's like, these are the things. So in other words, if you're looking at what we're doing, from in asana as just the visualization of that, everything, right? Like to do this podcast, there's 17 different steps, right? So that means all of these steps should have somebody's face on them or somebody's letter, right? So this is something, and somebody's assigned to it, and there's due dates. So that's kind of what anything that's not in development, but anything that's, once it goes from in development to in action, then that's really, what we want to see. And so, something like, okay, outreach potential DAO members. All right, well, this person has her face is on it, which means somebody is in that project or in that certain role. And so I think from that practical standpoint, that's the way that I see it. Whose face is on what, and what's in development, what's to do, and then what are we actually working on now? So what's priority?
And then I think that we need to figure out how using the tool also we integrate Nestor and Haifa. So Nestor and Haifa is to contextualize HSC, and then with Nestor and Haifa, we then that's how we are growing the user owned infrastructure that is doing these projects which are being organized in Asana or Asana.
So right now, as a director, having to like direct multiple moving parts, when I see you, Jeff, I see you being able to have an important role, especially with like the liaison with local scale, with Nestor, and like working actually on the Nestor sort of, because of the way your mind works, but also as a storyteller, presenter, or like guest analyst, in a panel or something. I think we're good. And then you can do Spanish, English presentation and hosting. It'll be great.
Absolutely.
But right now, your mastermind ability is appreciated for like making the complex less complex. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I know.
And Jeff is also talking. Jeff also has other contacts that he's talking to, and some of it is also right, that some of the things we're all talking about, but like, okay, where can funding come from?
Okay, practical, tactical. So I'm about to get off this call, and I'm going to work on the circle organizational chart for our event management phase 1. Then I'm going to email you, Jeff, and I think we can put that into the Nestor. I already have the D Studio. I mean, I've been working in Nestor for like 2 years.
Okay, cool.
Through that process.
I love to. I love to.
Is like a core. He's like behind D Studio too.
Awesome.
But the point is I checked it out the other day. It's looking better, and we need to show how our multi-entity DAOs can come together, to like do the Restore-a-thon, and like we can start to like show like, and then we're going to build the local bioregional teams for each of those places. So when we go to East Palestine, we're going to spin up a circle, and local people who want to come into that, they can come into that localized circle, and then we start to sort of model this out, and then connect, and then we're facilitators and catalysts, and we're bringing the tech and access and all of that. But at the end of the day, if we go into a project and we're leaving something behind that can grow naturally, that's the goal, and we just go place to place to place.
Absolutely. And then Rob, you haven't shared with Basil yet the latest spreadsheet that I sent you about the model, how the model works. And,
no, I haven't.
So that would be something that I would love to share. And then what I'm thinking is that I'm going to figure out how to use Nestor to show how the model can be can be implemented with Nestor in this holistic fashion that is also so very compatible with Haifa. So then
Nestor is phase 1. So any new thing, we go to Nestor first.
Okay.
Program it, and then from that we can go to Haifa, I think.
Love it.
Yeah.
And then what you suggested, then we can use Nestor to show them how we are going to become the vehicle for co-activating all the bioregions and bringing the emergence and accelerating the emergence of the transition from extractive civilization to regenerative civilization for all the seeds ecosystem.
And then HSC needs to go to Nestor to be a US-based vendor, essentially, service sales provider and everything. On any productions that HSC brings to D Studio, for instance, there can be an initial like 20% concept just for cost to sell, for entities that are bringing jobs in to the ecosystem. They should get like a piece of that, and they can So, and then Zoe, like whatever, I support you, whatever you want to do, wherever you want to show up.
And Zoe she must have lost battery or something. She just jumped off.
Okay, thank you for a good
insight. Got jumped off, but Zoe is we can still set up a meeting if we want. I don't know if it's a meeting with Zoe to get her sort of in the pipeline for editing.
editing, but also marketing side.
Yeah, she does. I mean, like social media. So
Yeah.
she does editing and content creation, social media, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I like to actually check to see if we overwhelm the male energy domination here.
oh no, I don't think she just lost battery or something like that.
Please check with her on that.
Yeah.
She for sure. I will, but yeah. It's a good, no, you know what? So like, because we've been working together for a while now, and she's
Okay.
sort of like is kind of taking all this in,
Right.
processes it, and then comes back.
She might be overwhelmed because
she does a little,
there's a
like
lot
me a
that
little
she
bit.
hasn't.
Sometimes I process things and then come back, next time, and then have a
Yes.
bunch of good insights and
But
no, I don't think that's why
there's so much new that we threw her today.
There's a lot. Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, she's like really interested and fascinated in it,
Right, okay.
and so we have some really good, conversations. But we do this kind of thing as well. It's sort of sit there and start,
Right.
going on about
Okay,
it
so
for hours.
also just for the sake of progressing how we organize, I think that we ought to make very specific the kind of meeting that we're going to have. It's, is this a project meeting? It's going to be a project meeting that we're at, and then the onboarding meeting, that's got to be separate.
Yeah. Well, then maybe we should just have a standing project meeting once a week, and then this is the
I agree.
onboarding meeting. And if we're, all right. Well, that was the question at the beginning. Maybe we
Right.
arrived at the answer here now.
Yes. Yeah.
So the way that
Yeah.
Hyphen did their meetings is like Mondays is strategic circle meetings.
Okay.
And then that's good for project meetings.
Right.
And then Tuesdays is when they sort of review the proposals for voting purposes, and like, people need to show up and like what they're submitting for and all of that. That's how it used to work. And then that's in the DAO proposals. That was like just 1 hour Tuesdays, and then capping meetings to 1 hour. Some of our meetings for projects, we're going to need to like internal processing. We need them to be like 15-30 minute like tacticals.
Yeah.
But
and then what I think that we ought to do is just have an onboarding weekly to invite all the people who are new. So the onboarding webinar or workshop, whatever, is just to pitch the vision and have people make the decision if they want to be in or not.
Yeah, and I think that I think that that base idea is like it's the weekly like community meeting.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be onboarding. So in other words, like if there was a meeting for that community meeting, the four of us showed up, we could still do whatever we'd want to do. We could talk about stuff, or we could do practical, tactical.
Correct.
But it's like the meeting is like the community meeting, and it is for that onboarding. It's for people to get to know each other, to meet, and then maybe we just set another one that's just like strategic in production.
Yeah. So the space to talk about the vision and to talk about to share the vision with all the new people. That space just allocated for that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think I'm gonna stick. I think that we can stick with this one this time. 3. So I guess then that means we need there needs to be a second weekly time for the more strategic meeting.
Yeah. Or we might want to spend a couple of weeks organizing this, what we have so far. So before we start inviting other people, in other words, let's organize the strategy to be in alignment with seeds and HIFA and local scale before we do more of onboarding for most.
I feel like we have enough very important internal projects to work with. Plus, we can turn up more rev flow to bring in CAP, and then really focus on like building these restore-a-thons to bring in the budget to support. The more that we can be the clients for ourselves and not to worry about serving outside of the ecosystem, the better.
Yeah. I mean, I'm, like I'm going full, I'm going full on with trying to bring in new people, with outreach and trying to bring in new team members.
That's fine as long as their expectations don't get high. Yeah.
All right, I gotta go, guys.
Yeah, I mean, the expectations are, I mean, as far as expectations, it's like,
Zero, gotta go.
Oh, all right, all right, all right. We'll be in touch soon. Yeah, I mean, for me, as long as I mean, expectations are like, look, there's no, it's the same expectations I have, and until there's actually financial flow coming in, then I'm not expecting it, so I have to keep doing whatever, need to keep doing to keep this going, and then to, get something coming in,
Right. Well, I've already gone and like led a bunch of people through like this whole like seeds 2-year